All right, so I haven't started the recording earlier, so I was starting the recording now. So the plan was like writing a Pascal code for the given scenario. So like I have given you the question like this. So regarding that question, the flowchart and pseudocode, we have drawn and written it earlier. So now I was asking to write the Pascal coding for this with the knowledge that we have gained, right? So yeah, any solutions? Like, do you need more time, or can we move with the coding? Yes, I have. Yeah, I received the Udamya's coding. APC. Okay. Okay, it was yeah. Yes. There are some syntax errors, but the way that you have written this, Udamya, is quite okay. Just see whether what went wrong when we are coding then. And yes, others, do you need more time, or can we proceed? Okay, so I'm going to proceed. I'm taking the charm Pascal, which is the ID that we are used to type. Right, so let me zoom it in. Okay, so what we are trying to do is we are trying to replicate, or like not replicate actually, we are trying to write a pseudocode for this flow chart, right? Or the pseudocode that is given in the other side. So let's start typing. So I'll start the program keyword. And I can have this structure. So I'm giving a name, program, large num. And you can give any particular name for that according to the rules that we were discussing. Input, output. So then we are going to declare the variables. So we need 3 types of variables to take the 3 integers, right? Later, if you need any more variables, we'll come here and illustrate those, right? So for the moment, I'll take x comma y comma z colon. I'm going to say integer and a semicolon. Right, then in between begin and end, we are going to put the logic starting from here, right? So all the things that we have done so far, it is something that need to be done at the start. So now we are going to take 3 numbers and consider them as x, y, and z. So like we can have a right ln and we can say enter first number. Right. Okay, Dinelka, yeah, yes. Yes, that seems quite okay. Yes. Yes, it seems quite okay, Dua. We'll see. Is it the code that you have ran on the computer and send it to me, Dua? So I need a reader then. All right, great. So it should be working. Right, and I'm reading this to the X. That means the first number that is going to enter by the user will be read into the X, right? I'm going to copy this couple. Yes, Suzu. Hi. Hello. I look super funny. Daddy, I look super funny. You have to have a wash, Suzu. It looks like I look super funny. I'm supposed to. Ah, go there and have a wash. Daddy, let's wash her too because she's dirty as well. Okay. Right, so then I'm asking to enter second number, and over here I'm asking the third number. And I'm reading the first number to the X, second number to the Y, and third number to the Z. So then I'm going to face over here to declare my first the condition, right? So here we go. We are going to start it from a if. Then we can ask X larger than Y. Hold on a second, paper. Okay, so I asked for the first, second, and the third numbers. I read it to the X, Y, and Z. Now I'm going to compare as my flow chart says. So the first comparison goes with the X and Y. If X larger than Y, then I'm going to go on the years path. So I'm meeting another condition. So that means I have to take a nested if. So it says if X larger than Z, then I'm going to go to the next one. If it is true, I have to display X as the larger value. So I'm going to say, I'm going to write a right ln. And I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to say X, comma, and then I'm going to put is the largest value. So if the X is the larger one, it will show the value of the X and print the phrase is the largest value. Right, and in the else part, In the else part, I can do the right ln. If it is not, Z is going to be the bigger one. Right, I think semicolon must ends from here. Okay, then the else comes here, and under that else belongs to this if, right? So under that else, I need another if. And it will ask the question whether y is larger than z. Oh, I'm sorry. Then, so the right ln, this is going to be y is the largest value. And then it will be having a else. Then I have to say again, Z is the larger value. Okay. Yeah, some sort of error is given. Let me check what it is. Chanure, hold on, I'll come to your question. Yeah, since there are more statement inside this, I hope this is going to be the problem. Still, it is giving me a problem. Where the problem lies. Hold on, hold on. Yeah, we are putting it to a Behara, like hold on the else if yeah, let me check it from over here. It's like, yeah, when they are having else ifs, it's the very end that they have gone. Hold on. So in that case, this should happen. Yeah, semicolons are quite tricky on here. We'll check it. Let me check whether they have used a begin and end for the statements. They haven't. So like, let me get rid of these two. It seems okay now. Yes. Yeah, now it's okay. I think it's because of this else ifs, since it need a semicolon over here. So let's run it and see. And out of this thing, we need a readln to hold the screen. That should not be a part of your code, people. This is just for the charm Pascal is not holding the screen because of that. So let's run it. So they are asking for the first number. I can enter 10, 20, 30. Yeah, it says 30 is the largest value. We'll do a different input. I give 30, 20, and 10. Yeah, still 30 is the largest value, they said. I'll give 20, 40, and 30. 40 is the largest value. Yes, that's what. Yeah. Yeah, how about it, people? Is it clear? Yes, everyone? Was it clear? Okay. And Chanuri, about your question. So you're asking, why don't we write X is the largest number under X larger than Z? Yeah, Chanuri, that is what we have written. So are you asking like why X is the largest value not being written inside the single quotes? Is that what you're asking, Dua? Okay, okay. Are you asking under this Dua? You're asking why we are not writing after this statement. Yes, Dua, according to the flow chart, the flow goes in which way? This condition checks. Then on the years path, Dua, it's another condition that we meet. So that's why after this condition, we find another condition. That's why after this condition, we put this particular one. Okay, right. All right. So if you got any mistakes or if you have any fillings to do, so it's time. I'll give you 2 minutes of time. So just copy it down. Copy down means like do the corrections. Then I'm going to proceed to the iterations. Yeah, I will scroll down slowly. Okay, Denuka, here comes from the beginning. So let's be quick and finish it up. All right. So I hope no one is copying anymore, right? So I'm moving forward. So the next part is about the iterations, right? So when it comes to the iterations or the repetitions, we have three separate structures to learn, right? So the first structure is called for do method, right? And there are two separate structures, which is called while do and the repeat until, right? So first of all, I would like to go with the structure called while do, not with the for do. I'll come to the for do at a later part, because there are things that you can understand, or like the things that you can take very easily when it comes to the while do, right? So when it comes to the while do loop, it's something very same what we have learned in the pseudocodes, right? So there's nothing much difference. While keyword is there, the condition is there, and the keyword called do is there. And if you want something to be happen, and there is only, if there is only one statement regarding the iteration, you can have it like this, and you can end it with a semicolon, right? Something very easy. So if you think about the second example, number is given with the value 1, and the while keyword is there, the condition is there, do is there. So they say inside it, number colon equal number plus 1. So there is only one statement which is going to happen under the while loop. So it ends like this. But even though this seems to be like this, there will be like the execution of the while loop is quite different from the if statements, because when it comes to the while, those are the iteration types, right? So which happens one after the other, right? Like it's going to repeat again and again, not one after the other, like repeat again and again, which is inside the while loop. So let's see how this happens. Like I'll show you how the things are going to happen with this, right? So when number is 1, you are going to have, like, let's say this is your number variable, right? So you will be having 1 as at the very first stage of this coding, right? So I'm referring to the example 2. So number colon equal 1 means the variable num is going to have the value 1. Then it says while number less than or equal 10. So less than or equal 10. Number less than or equal 10. So number means 1. 1 is less than or equal 10. Then it says, that means this is true. If it is true, it's going to consider this part. In case if the condition is false, it's not going to go further than that. It reaches the endpoint, which is over here, of the while loop straight away, right? But in case this is true, it's going to execute this statement. So in this statement, it says number colon equals number plus 1. That means increase number by 1. So number will become 2. Then once that statement is done, it's not going to end. After that, it goes and checks this condition again. That's how the repetition happens. Right? So then once the condition will be checked, so it is checking whether number is less than or equal to 10. So number is 2, 2 is less than, or it is less than 10, not equal actually, it's less than 10. So again, this particular statement will be executed. So then 2 will become 3. Right, so likewise, you can see this number is going to increase one by one until this particular condition is satisfied, or like when it is true. So when number become 10, right? So likewise, when number become 10, it checks again. 10 is not less than, but it is equals. So that means again, this statement is going to happen. That means 10 is going to become 11. Once it is 11, then when they are checking this condition, it gives you false now. If it is false, it jumps onto this place and it will end the session. So like the value of num will increase until 11 according to this particular Pascal code that you can see. Okay, is that clear, everyone? Okay, right. So then let's have something about the while do, then we'll go to the repeat until. Right, so have the main heading saying repetition, repetition. Under the repetition, the first structure is while do. Oh, I missed the place. Hold on, people. I missed the place. Yeah, there you go. Right, so under the repetition, the first subtopic is the while do loop. Yeah, first line is important. Second is also. Yeah, you have to write the entire thing over here with the second example. Yeah, are we done, everyone? Okay, one is done. How about others? Anyone who is still writing? Okay. So moving forward to the next structure, which is called the repeat until. Now, repeat until structure is something very same to in the nature, it is something very same to the while do, but there is a specific or a significant difference in between these two. Now, when it comes to the while do, this particular statement will execute when this particular condition is true, right? When it is true, and whenever it is true, this is going to happen again and again. So that means until this condition being false, this will execute. Now, when it comes to the repeat until, it goes the other way around. So the repeat until works like this. The repeat keyword will be here, until keyword will be at the end, and over there at the right hand side, the condition is defined. So when the execution happens, it will execute the repeat keyword, it will execute this line, next line, and then checks the condition. Right? And if it is false, then this will be repeated. Again, this will be repeated. Then checks the condition. If it is false, this will be repeated. Again, this will be repeated. Then checks the condition. So this repetition will happen when the condition is false. That means the repetition or the iteration will happen until the condition becomes true. Right? So that's the major difference in between the while do and the repeat until. While works until the condition becomes false. Repeat until works until the condition becomes true. Right? The iteration part. Other than that, both are doing the iteration, and the other difference is in the while do, we find the condition at the top of the structure. Here, we are finding the condition at the end of the structure, right? And again, when it comes to the execution pattern or like the execution nature, in the while do condition, in case this particular condition is false, right? Like assume like this number is equals to 11 at the top line, not 1. Then when they check this particular condition, it is false at the very first time. Then this particular line will never going to execute. So while can have that kind of nature. Condition is false at the very first time, so nothing will execute inside the iteration structure, not for at least once. But when it comes to the repeat until, since the condition is checked at the end, always at least one time the content inside the structure is going to execute. All right, so that means now if you think the count is equals to 6, count is equals to 6 over here, not the 0. If we assume like that, repeat keyword will be executed. So it will write the Pascal on the screen from the right ln, and count will be increased to 7. The initial value of the count is 6. If we assume, it will increase to the 7, and then they checks whether the count is larger than 5. Yes, it is. That means the condition is true. So because of that, these two are not going to happen again. But the problem is at the initial point, I said this count, assume to be that this count is equals to 6. When the count is equals to 6, still this condition is true. 6 is larger than 5. Right? That means it should not repeat. But the problem is, since it is met at the end, they are doing these two things and then check, and then iteration will stop since the condition is true. Are you clear with it, people? Okay, great. All right, then let's have this as well. Repeat until structure, the heading. And like the previous part, you have to copy this thing down, and then as well as the example. Let me know when you are done, people. Okay, one is done. How about others? All right, anyone who is still copying this? All right, so moving forward, now we can talk about the structure that is at the top of your textbook, which is the for loop. All right. Now, the reason why I'm using these two loops in the first place, it is because using the while, we can represent any kind of iteration, right? It doesn't matter what kind of condition that the while loop is going to face. While loop can absorb literally any kind of condition, as well as the repeat until. So the only problem is like repeat until checks the condition at the end. So there is a risk, or there is a possibility of executing the iteration structure at least once. So with that reason, repeat until, I'm sorry, while is better than repeat until, because for any restricted kind of iteration, or like if you want to replicate the iteration exactly, we can use the while always, right? And when it comes to the for loop, for is not a type of iteration that can represent any kind of repetitions. For has the ability of counting the repetition. So like we call it as a counting loop. If any counting process is involved, then for loop can be used, right? So like if you go through the nature of the for, or the examples that you can see on the book, it always related with a number, with an integer, all right? So how we are going to write the for loop? So like when we are writing the for loop, we started from the for keyword, and we have to use a variable inside the for loop to define the condition. So condition is quite descriptive in this for loop. So the description happens like this. So inside the for loop, there is a variable called x. It starts from 1, goes until 5. So that's how the condition explains. The variable of the condition, or like the condition variable is x. Its initial value is 1, and it increases up to 5. How it is going to increase? 1 by 1, right? So that means in the first iteration, value of the x will be taken as 1, since it is the starting value. In the next iteration, x value will be increased by 1. That means x will become 2. And in the next iteration, x will become 3. Then in the other iteration, it will become 4. And the last iteration, x will become 5. Right? So the starting value is 1, ending value is 5. So it repeats for 5 times. Is that clear? Everyone, is that clear? Okay. Now, in case, if we want to represent this for loops happening, like the for loops execution, using a while loop, right? This is how we are going to illustrate it. So according to the first line, the first for loop, I can write the first for loop using a while like this, right? So you can say x colon equals 1, that's the initial value of x, and we can use while, then it goes until the fifth, like the value of 5, right? So I can say while x less than or equal 5, do, right? And inside the while loop, there should be x colon equals x plus 1, right? So you can see the for loop is capable of doing what? Doing compressing 3 types of things, or like 3 statements of while together. Now that is an advantage of the for loop, right? So initial value stays as x equals 1, and it says you have to increase until 5, so that represents the condition. So how the x is going to increase? 1 by 1, right? So that means over here as the last line, right? So these kind of, like when the while is using 3 lines to explain this, we can use for just by 1 line. But the problem is, if the while loop illustrating something like this, like let's say C equals 0, and say while I'm taking a different kinds of value over here. I'll take a string value, C equals ABC. I'm using a while C equals PQR. And then I say write ln hello. Now this kind of a program will never be able to illustrate from the for loop, right? Why? It does not contain anything related to counting. This particular example has nothing regarding the counting, so it cannot be illustrated from the for. Is that clear, people? Okay. And when it comes to the for loop, you can use the increase, or like the increment pattern of the for, as well as you can use the decrement pattern of the for, right? I'll clear the notations, right? So this is a decrement pattern of the for. So it says for the variable x will start with 10, and they use the word down to 5, then it says do. This means start x by 10, decrease its value until 5. How it is going to decrease? 1 by 1, right? So if I take this into a for loop, how it's going to be? I can say x colon equals 10, and I can say while x less than or equals I'm sorry, not less than, larger than or equals 5, do x colon equals x minus 1. That's what happens. So at the very first execution, x will become 10, x is 10. In the next iteration, x is 9, and the next iteration, x is 8. So likewise, 7, 6, 5 will be happen. So number of repetitions will be 6, because 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So if you count it from your fingers, you can see 6 iterations are happening, right? Because from 10 to 5, even though the difference is 5, there are 6 times that the number is changing. Is that clear, everyone? Okay, great. All right, so with that, since the time is up, I'm going to end the session from this point, and we are going to write about the for loop by next week. Then we'll go to some questions, and then there is only a few things that we have to do in the regarding the Pascal, so we can see and end of this lesson. All right, okay, so for today, I'm going to end the session from here. So thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you on next week for the very same time. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice weekend.